What's up guys, Houndish here, and today we're jumping back in with some Destiny 2 news, and we get a few updates from Bungie today about Season of Opulence. They give us new details about a new mechanic for the day 1 launch of the raid. We'll talk about that in a moment. They also speak about the transition into Season 7 and a few things worth noting. On top of this, they talk about Eververse and a bunch of changes that we'll see next season, teases for upcoming reveals, clarification, and a bunch of other stuff that we'll cover in this video, guys. So as always, if you enjoy this one, a like below is very much appreciated. But yeah, now let's jump straight into it. So firstly, immediately before the TWAB, Bungie posted an update about the Crown of Sorrow raid starting in Season of Opulence, and of course this launches on June 4th. And this update comes from Luke Smith. Essentially, there is going to be a new mechanic while we're in that kind of launch period for the raid. So, he says, while we love seeing players find clever ways of leveraging game mechanics, we wanted to take a step back and look at what's going to be the best player experience for those competing and those watching. Below is how we're changing the way the world first raid window works for Season of Opulence and testing out a new mode called Contest. So when the raid goes live at 4 PM Pacific on June 4th, Contest is going to be active, and they say players will face an enforced challenge throughout the raid, and this means that power beyond certain levels will provide no advantage for a given fight. So for example, in the first fight, all power above 700 won't provide an advantage, and for the final fight, power above 720 will not provide an advantage. They do also say that they're going to deploy the update for Opulence at 8 AM Pacific, and the game will be down until 10 AM Pacific. So this will give us a short window to actually download the update and stuff like that. But after the first 24-hour period ends, they're going to disable Contest and restore the raid kind of power relationship to its usual functionality, and that means that players will be able to leverage additional power to overcome the raid. So, essentially, power above 720 is not going to provide an advantage in the first 24 hours. So, if you're going for a kind of day 1 clear, 720 is the maximum power level that's actually going to benefit you, and that's all you'll need to worry about in terms of grinding up to that power level before the raid. Of course, if you don't plan to go for Worlds First, then you can power up beyond 720, and after 24 hours, you can jump in and kind of complete the raid normally. But it's definitely going to be more difficult, of course, with that kind of power delta going on. And Luke Smith says, if this experiment goes well, we can imagine future raids launching with Contest active, but first, we want to see how this one plays out. So definitely a pretty interesting change, and I guess it does make sense, considering that Bungie are putting such focus on this kind of day 1 World First race. So let us know your thoughts about that, and it's also interesting that Luke Smith has actually jumped in for this update. Of course, we haven't been hearing from him as much. So yeah, curious stuff, and I'd love to hear your thoughts below. Next though, in This Week at Bungie, Deej jumps in and gives us a few details. So, he says we're setting the stage for Season of Opulence, and the next season begins in less than 2 weeks on June 4th. Today they share some of the key changes that we'll see in the next season. So as Season of the Drifter comes to a close, a new source for powerful rewards will emerge, the Drifter will return to his role as your Gambit hype man, and Benedict 9940 is about to become your source for brand new secrets and rewards. Let's take a look at how this new perspective will be making some sweeping changes to your weekly routine. And of course we get a confirmation right there that Benedict 9940 is indeed the frame we see in the artwork for Season of Opulence, and of course is going to be kind of the guiding vendor for this new set of content. So updated vendor definitely confirmed and probably housed in the Tower Annex, but for Power Surge bounties, they're actually going to be replaced with a new Power Surge quest. We'll actually need to complete this quest to access the new raid, but the quest must be completed only once per account, and then all of your characters will have access to the new content. On top of this, once the quest is complete, alternate characters will be rewarded with Surge gear at power level 690. So a bit of a switch up right there in how that's going to work. For Gambit bounties, he says we didn't want rewards from the Drifter to be one of the primary sources of power following his run as the central character for Season of the Drifter, so as a result, power boosts received from Gambit bounties will decrease once you've achieved 700 power, and they're going to decrease even further once we hit 720 power, so that's pretty interesting. And of course they reiterate that on day 1, Prime attunements will be reset to 2 charges for each player, so a bit of an adjustment in how we'll get Prime engrams right there. And before we move on to other vendor stuff, to summarize, they say the Crown of Sorrow raid begins on day 1 of Season of Opulence at 4 PM PDT. Players who want to compete will need to complete the Power Surge quest, and that's on top of the other changes with the contest modifier. So just a few things right there. Pretty interesting the way they're changing the Power Surge quest. And I think it's pretty cool that we also know that Benedict is indeed the frame on the artwork. So let us know what you think about that. But next they do talk about Eververse, and with Season of Opulence they're making some changes to the store. Some of these are going to be, somewhat significant, and they say they had 2 goals in mind for the changes they're making. So, firstly, direct pick. Every new Eververse item in Season of Opulence will be available for direct purchase via Silver or Bright Dust. Most of these offers will be time limited, with new items available weekly. So generally, we'll be much more able to kind of purchase things directly. On top of this, the Season of Opulence Bright Engram will contain a collection of community favorite legacy items with a focus on the best of year 1. So if you missed out on things like the spicy ramen or the selfie emote, Season of Opulence will give another chance to obtain these. They do have some additional details about some of the rewards, so for armor, full armor sets will be made available as a single per class bundle as opposed to being offered only via Bright Engrams. Individual armor pieces can also be purchased for Bright Dust whenever they appear on the storefront, and these armor pieces do feature fixed perk rolls that are not randomized across duplicates. So no more random rolls on those pieces of gear, but on top of this, there will be a more simplistic interface for Eververse itself. And inside of here, we get a bit of a preview of a couple of things. So we can see some ornaments. We can also see the Opulence kind of icon on the shader and the ornament there in Eververse. The Braytech Dream Sparrow, which is a pretty interesting one. Some emotes, but also a new weapon ornament right there for the Arbalest. And that's called the Barren Wastes, kind of maybe a Fallen themed ornament, I'm not sure. But of course the UI itself has definitely changed up quite a bit here. Specific items are now featured on the front page, and they're going to be recycled with each weekly reset, and most offers are going to be time limited to make way for rotating inventories, with some coming back into the rotation at a later date. On top of this, players can access this new interface by visiting tests in the usual tower location. So pretty cool stuff, let us know what you think about that. But on top of this, individual items purchased for Silver will now go to the relevant character inventory location in a wrapped state. So a Sparrow purchased directly for Silver will arrive wrapped in the Sparrow inventory. But to use an item, it must be opened just like a bundle, and we can see the kind of icon for that right there. But once opened, the item functions and can be accessed normally, and if you wish to refund an item, you're going to have 7 days from purchase to do so. However, items that have been opened cannot be refunded. Either way, all of these changes are going to be going live at the start of Season of Opulence. And also in that artwork right there, we can see some pretty interesting stuff. I believe some ornaments for existing gear. Is that possibly the Stronghold? I'm not sure on the left-hand side. We do also see a new Ghost Shell. And then on the right-hand side, I believe that is some kind of ornament for One-Eyed Mask, maybe? But they're giving us some important details and a couple of teasers as well, which is cool. So, pretty interesting changes for Eververse right there. We'll have to see how it plays out in the game. It sounds like some of these things could definitely be, pretty cool. But above all, let us know your thoughts down below. They do give a couple of warnings and day 1 preparations. They do say, even after the raid unlocks, all players will have to complete the Power Surge quest to actually gain access to it. On top of this, they give some seasonal weapon drop warnings. So Service Revolver and Last Perdition will be unavailable at their respective vendors for a limited time, but it sounds like they're going to stick around because Bungie say players who don't unlock these weapons by the June 4th deadline will be able to acquire the weapons once they are addressed in a future update. On top of this, it's worth noting that current pinnacle weapons for this season, the Recluse, Oxygen, and 21% Delirium will continue to be available. Now, Bungie do finish by saying, these are some of the game changes that you'll discover when Season of Opulence begins, but we have even more to show next week. We're already working on a preview of new pinnacle weapons, we've also seen a preview of the new raid jacket that is totally awesome, and with the finer points for the systemic changes on the table, we can next turn our attention to revealing the places you'll go and the reasons you'll fight. Right now, our focus is on Opulence, but after this season has launched and the raid belts have been awarded, we'll be looking deeper into the future and sharing with you more about a new era for Bungie and Destiny 2. And of course, that is a tease to the content that we're going to see later on this year, but of course the Bungie roadmap that they spoke about as we went into this season, because anything that we get after Season of Opulence is pretty much going to be Bungie-owned, Bungie-managed content without Activision. And of course, we are eager to learn what those kind of year 3 or future plans for the franchise in general are going to be. However, be sure to hit subscribe and stay tuned on the channel, because next week we're going to get a bunch of new information. We'll probably get a Vidoc of some sort, but they're going to show us new places that we'll go, new content, new activities and stuff like that. And they say that they're already working on previews for pinnacle weapons, so we should see those as well. Definitely pretty interesting times, guys. So anyway, as always, I'd love to hear your opinions, any thoughts about the next season down in the comment section, but if you've enjoyed the video, a like is very much appreciated. And once again, if you're new around here, feel free to hit subscribe and I'll keep you completely up to date. But otherwise, thanks as always for tuning in, guys, and whatever you get up to, I hope you have an awesome day.